Hey, everybody, this is part of our full-length primetime podcast. You can check it out on BlogTalkRadio, iTunes, YouTube, plenty more. I hope you enjoy.
We're going to move on into our next topic. And, Brandon, this is one usually we leave it off to the side, say the onside kick has it. But with everything going on with the playoffs and the Jaguars making moves in their coaching ranks, me and Mark are going to have a lot of things to talk about later this week. So I thought this would be a nice NFL draft topic for us to go over, as a lot of players are now declaring for the NFL draft to get ready. It's like you declare now, we get ready for the combine in Indy, and then from there it's kind of a snowball all the way to the NFL draft that is now in Philly. I'm going to hit you. I'm going to go straight with it. Is Mitch Trubisky, is he going to be the best quarterback, maybe the first quarterback? I'll say it. Is he going to be the first quarterback taken off the board this year?
Has Kaiser declared?
Kaiser's declared.
Then I don't know. I think that it
Kaiser's declared. I think Watson's coming out.
I don't think it's Mitch Trubisky. I'll be honest with you. I don't think it's going to be Mitch Trubisky. The reason I say it's not going to be Trubisky is because we didn't see enough of him. We did not see enough of him. We saw a lot this year, but we didn't see enough of him total overall. I think that when you take a look at the guys that will be available and the guy that's playing in the game tonight while we're recording this podcast, Deshaun Watson, I'm taking Watson over Trubisky. Mm-hmm. And it's not to say that I don't think that Trubisky is good and that he can be good in the NFL. I mean, this season, he had over 3,700 yards, 30 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. His entire college career, over 4,700 yards, 41 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Most of his college career was played this season. Mm-hmm. That's what hurts him. That's what's going to hurt him, in my mind. In answer to your question, he is not the number one quarterback taken. Not in my opinion. No. But
are you going Watson then or Kaiser?
I will say I am going to go Watson because I think that he has...
And this is before what happens tonight. I just want you guys out there in YouTube world and Blog Talk Radio world to know that. That's before what happened tonight.
I'm going to go Watson. I think that he has an outstanding skill set. I did think that early on in the season, and I mentioned it, I said it, I thought that with some of the comments he made, it seemed like he wasn't able to take some of the pressure at the beginning. That's not good. There's a lot of pressure in the NFL. But I think that what he's done and how he's picked up and he's shown he's the leader. Mm-hmm. He's the leader, and he can be a leader. And I think that you need to be a leader in college if you want to be a leader anywhere else. You got to be. In my opinion, you just do. Again, this is all my opinion. I don't even care. I'm not going to say that again. It's all my opinion. But I think that you need to be that leader. That's what I think we've seen from him. He got much better as the season went on. You have that loss at Pitt. They could have crumbled. He didn't allow it. And he made sure the rest of the team didn't allow it either. He's been very good. We saw what they did against Ohio State. Ohio State was kind of a dud anyways, but I think we saw what he was able to do there, 31-0. And I don't think that they'll win tonight. Shocker. But I think that he will play a good game. He played a good game last year in the same spot. I think that he'll play another good one. And I think that he really has a complete package with what he's able to do. And, you know, whenever you say a name, people are like, oh my gosh, he's nowhere near what this guy is. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, I just think of guys like, RG3 isn't a great example. But, Mike Vick, guys like that are able to throw, that can pass well, but that also can run the ball, and they're not afraid of moving the ball with their legs and stuff like that, and that's why I think that he is good, and I think that also, I mean, take a look at a guy like Aaron Rodgers, outstanding. He's known for passing, obviously.
2-year starter though in college,
but he can run the football, and he can run it very well, and I think that people wouldn't look at him as being that guy, but he is. And I think that Watson, if he if he stays in the pocket for most of the time, but then also can run, I mean, that just makes it even more dangerous because people don't know when you're going to do it. So I say it's going to be him. I know the segment's supposed to be on Trubisky, but but ultimately it comes back to the point why I don't think Trubisky will be the number one quarterback taken. Not enough there. And also I just think that there's other guys coming out that have shown more in more years.
I'm going to make two comparisons. First one I'm going to make has to do with why I am perfectly okay with Trubisky declaring for the draft instead of coming back. I know myself, I know Mark Weber, especially after watching that Stanford Cardinal game that they played in the Hyundai Sun Bowl. I remember him watching that and then texting us during that game saying, Mitch has got to stay in school. He said that to us. Mitch has got to stay in school. Doesn't have enough right now. From what I'm seeing, he's like, does not have enough. And would he benefit from staying another year in school? Yeah, he would. But the one thing I think of when I look at the type of season he has had and his decision, he's trying to avoid a Jake Locker situation. This is exactly what happened with Jake Locker. Jake Locker was a guy, started his freshman year, 14 to 15 touchdown interception ratio. His sophomore season, redshirt sophomore season, gets injured against Oregon State. Done. Doesn't play much. Threw one touchdown that season. Then he comes back 2009, his redshirt junior year. Throws for 21 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. After that year, everyone was like, Jake Locker should come out. He should come out. He should declare for the draft. He's going to be high in the draft. He decides to stay. Has not a bad season, but when you look 17-9 touchdown interception ratio, less yards at 2,265. He had a lower completion percentage by 3%. It wasn't as good of a year for Jake Locker, and his stock kind of fell. Although on draft night, you can look at it and say, well, the Titans just kind of reached for him and took him higher than he wanted. Thank God, because he didn't end up going to my Vikings, who really wanted him that year. That was the same draft that Colt McCoy was drafted in. But I can see Trubisky. Maybe he's not thinking of Jake Locker. That's what I'm here to do. But I can see, like, okay, declare for the draft because you don't want a Jake Locker situation. What if he comes back next year and he doesn't have as good of a year? He falls off a little bit. Then his draft stock falls, and he might fall into the second round. The second comparison I was going to make, to me this year, and this is before I've watched Mitch's film, which I am going to do now that he's officially declared for the draft, I see him as a Paxton Lynch kind of a situation. And when I say that, I say situation, where a team drafts him, he doesn't become the starter. He's not a Carson Wentz situation. He's more of what the Rams wanted to do with Jared Goff, but were pressured into not doing, where he would be a good situation where maybe late first, maybe early middle first round pick. I'm talking like late teens and on, where if it's a team, I can see him going to Arizona. The team in my head is Arizona, especially if Carson Palmer comes back. You get a guy ahead of him. He doesn't need to start. You can work that year kind of like he was in college. He can be a backup, work on his skills. That's what I see from Mitch Trubisky. He is not a guy that steps in day one and starts for you at the NFL level. He's a guy where you already have somebody, might not be the franchise guy in front of him, but you have a guy in front of him and you develop him behind him.
I don't disagree that that's certainly a way that they could go about doing it. But I also think that a lot of NFL teams, I mean, take a look at sometimes
most of them need a quarterback.
They need a quarterback, but also they want to be able to have a quarterback that they can then build around, and then they don't have to worry about, they're not all going to get a guy that comes in and boom, is Dak Prescott, right away, who has extremely great success. In his rookie season. But I think that they want someone who's at least established themselves in college. And yes, you can say that Trubisky is established. He established himself this season. But I think that then when you look at other guys, like a Deshaun Watson, he's had He's established himself over multiple seasons, and I think that makes an NFL team more comfortable. But we have certainly seen NFL teams be completely okay with reaching and going for a stretch, and that's not even to say that Trubisky is a huge stretch, but they've been okay with reaching out to try and get a guy who they think will be good. And I think that is also important. You know, some NFL teams go based on what they saw in college. Some NFL teams go based on what they think will happen. Mm-hmm. And, you know, sometimes it just doesn't work. Because guess what? Everyone thought Jamarcus Russell was going to end up being okay.
Well, I mean,
that was not the case, clearly. But I think that's
after he gained a couple pounds too,
just a few. That's what happens though. Is that what you expect to be is not always.
Well, and you look at it, and this is me going down. The order is going to be different because I'm looking at McShay's draft, which was done before the end of the season. Browns could use a quarterback. Niners. I mean, Bears for sure need a quarterback. I'm looking. Jets could take one. We have the Cardinals could draft a quarterback in the first round. The Bills could draft a quarterback in the first round. The Chiefs could draft one in the first round. I'm already 7 teams deep, and then the Cowboys and Patriots. But that's a team I want to ask you about. And it's because, A, you are a Chiefs fan, and B, that's who McShay had Mitch Trubisky going to. In my first mock draft, didn't have him going. I had no quarterbacks going in my first round. I'm going to look up in a second where Mark had him going. But I wanted to ask you because Todd McShay did have Trubisky going to the Chiefs, and with you being a Chiefs fan, that could be a situation where they draft him, say, Alex Smith is our starter. Let's develop this kid behind Alex.
I mean, something like that is certainly not bad, but you also need to make sure that you have someone who you want to develop. You know,
not just drafted a guy to draft a guy.
Exactly. I mean, honestly, the Jets need a quarterback. They got 4 on the roster.
They've got 1 million.
I mean, it's not even funny because they got Christian Hackenberg last season. Mm-hmm. And they still Geno. And they still need a quarterback.
They got Bryce Petty.
And they got Fitzpatrick.
They've got Fitzpatrick.
I told you. They got 1 million on the roster and they still say they need a quarterback. That's an issue. Mm-hmm. But that goes to show, guess what? Don't just draft a guy just to draft him because it ain't going to work.
Like Mark had him going to the Saints. That's a team Mark had him going to.
Drew Brees isn't going to be around forever.
Yet again, though, another team where Drew Brees could be there for about a year or two for Mitch to develop if you want to develop him.
I'll be honest, though, with Kansas City, I think they like Alex Smith. Alex Smith, he doesn't.
But how many years is he going to be playing, and how many years are they going to commit to him? That's the big thing.
Well, I think
like in the future, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying get him out of town or anything.
Yeah, but I mean everyone needs a quarterback, another quarterback eventually. I mean, one day
the Patriots are going to
age 57, Tom Brady will retire. And
you can take your earmuffs off, Sean.
And he will be gone, and someone else will need to come in and do the job. But I think that, you know, certainly right now, also though, one thing I think about is you don't want to have a guy on the bench for too long. You know what I mean? You have to
a year or two.
Yeah, you want to be able to have a guy in place, and that's why I could see Alex Smith there for a little bit longer, maybe more than a year or two, only because I don't know if Kansas City will make that move, but that goes to ownership and things like that. It kind of depends on how they do in the postseason this year, I think, and in the playoffs. So you don't want a guy to sit on the bench for too long, and then you want to go to him, and it's like, you know what? We'll just draft another guy, and then it's a waste. I mean, it's just a waste of a draft pick.
Can I throw this out there?
You can throw out whatever you would like.
Aaron Rodgers did sit behind Favre for 3 years. He did. That was 3. He did sit behind him.
That
was a guy who started 2 seasons in college before getting drafted.
That's I think a special situation.
Brett Favre, you're not going to kick him out after a year.
Well,
3 years was like, okay, let's start about maybe hitting the retiring button.
And Aaron Rodgers was the real deal too. I mean, it wasn't like you just threw in some scrub after him who's some mediocre quarterback. I don't want to say Tom Savage is a scrub, but it's not like you then, we have Tom Savage now. He's going to go be our quarterback. You know what I mean? It was Aaron Rodgers, and he was clearly a special player. So I have to see how Mitch Trubisky does in the NFL in his first couple of games, because, again, I don't want to say I put a ton. I don't want to say I put all the stock into the amount of years that you play in college, but I certainly think basketball, a lot of guys one and done. Football, you don't see that as much. You see, 2 years, I think, usually.
Well, that's if they redshirt, because you got to stay 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the rule.
Yeah.
But I mean,
clearly I forgot that rule.
Well, in football, though, you can't do that, though, even if there was no rule.
But I'm saying, I clearly forgot that rule. So I did. I'm like, you don't really see that. Well, dumb shit.
That's
it's
why.
because it doesn't happen. But basketball, I'm just saying, look at the guys who come out right away, because they can, obviously. They can, and what do they always turn out well? No, they don't. I mean,
Brandon Ingram has needed work this year. Ben Simmons hasn't even played because of injury. Joel Embiid didn't play his first year because of injury. I mean, that's one thing we talked about on the fast break. I mean, even when you can come out after 1 year, just because you can draft a guy number 1 doesn't mean he's going to bring you to the promised land like a LeBron James day 1. And same thing with the NFL.
So take a look. Again, I know that this is football that we're talking, but take a look at Buddy Hield.
How much he's had to work.
But it's that, but it's also, take a look at him. He stayed longer. He improved. He changed his shot up completely to become a better shooter.
Yeah, he was shooting with the wrong hand.
It was from this point to this point. I mean, it was.
And he switched hands. He was shooting left-handed.
Yeah, but I'm saying. I mean, that aside, the arc on your shot and everything like that. That is.
Would have been harder to do in the NBA.
You wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
He would not have done it successfully. That's my opinion. But he would not have done it successfully. I think, though, that, again, with the NFL, obviously it's good that they have to stay for the certain amount of years, because it makes them be really come into a full player. And I just don't know if it's helpful when you only are able to see one true season from Mitch Trubisky. Well, that's all I'm saying.
And the last thing I want to mention about Mitch before I turn it to you guys is a quote that he said when he declared for the draft, and I quote, "I know I could have come back to North Carolina and they would have prepared me and got me ready for next year, but I just feel like since the opportunity is here, the best opportunity for my career is to take the next step and develop and get ready for the NFL in this way." So it'll be interesting to see. I hope he throws at the combine. I don't know why he wouldn't, but I say that also because we've seen it in the past where guys go, I'm not going to throw at the combine. So I hope he throws at the combine. That'll give us a little bit more answers on top of the film. But this is where you guys come in. Let us know down below what you think of Mitch Trubisky. Where could he go? What do you think? Is he going to be, the first quarterback taken off the board, and is he the best quarterback in this draft class? Let us know.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed a lot of emotion. If you want more, click this video right over my left shoulder. You will certainly not regret it.